Go ahead and get started. Wow, that got quiet really quick. I hope they can just mute. So hello and welcome to the Rails board meeting on this beautiful Friday, April 27th. I'm Kate Hall, president of the Rails board, and I'm attending at the Vernon Area Public Library this afternoon. I don't know what time it is. It is 1 o'clock and we're getting started. Emily, would you please call roll?
Get started?
Sure. Christine Barr.
Here.
Dave Barry.
Here.
Sue Busenbart. Here. Judy Crocker.
John's like, well, everybody's stuff is just going to go in, when I die.
Judy Crocker.
Divide it out between the
Can you
kids.
see her there?
I can't tell.
Yeah, she's there.
It doesn't look like there was anyone.
Gwen Gregory.
I don't hear.
$6 off the policy and you keep
Kate Hall.
Here.
Paul Mills. Scott Poynton.
Here.
Dee Reynolds.
Here.
Nadia Shake.
Here.
Michelle Simmons.
Here.
Joe Skabinski. Laura Turner.
Here.
Lori Wilcox.
All right, thank you very much, Emily. Next, I'd like to do recognition of guests and announcements, and we'll start here at the Vernon Area Public Library.
Mary Witt Rails.
And then let's go to, it doesn't look like there's anyone in Bolingbrook. Let's go to Burr Ridge next.
Veranda Pitchford, Rails. Do you want to go next?
Rachel Bussey with Biblioboard.
Mitchell Davis, Biblioboard.
Mark Hatch, Rails.
Louise Svela, Rails. Ann Slaughter, Rails.
All right, thank you very much. And it does not look like there's anyone in Coal Valley. So let's move on to the Illinois State Library.
Greg McCormick.
Deborah Eggert.
Joe Natale.
Pat Berg.
Wonderful. And it doesn't look like, is there anyone in Galesburg? I can't tell. I'm going to guess that's a no. And Quincy, we don't think Judy is there, right? It looks like. And finishing last, but certainly not least, why don't we go around at East Peoria?
Jane Plass, Rails.
Deirdre Brennan, Rails.
Jim Krieger, Rails.
Ryan Hebel, Rails.
Amanda Masaccio, Rails. Emily Keister, Rails.
Jeff Brooks, Peekaboo Library.
Mary Elmer, Chillicothe Public Library.
John Sayers, Kiwanis Public Library Trustee.
Angela Campbell, Rock Island.
Tom Stagg, Alpha Park Library Trustee.
Barbara Love, Kiwanee Public.
Liza Hickey, Peoria Public.
Courtney Young, Avon Public.
Amanda Gray, RSA.
Joe Philippek, Rails. Devin King, RSA.
Martha Troxel, RSA.
Kendall Orison, RSA.
Lisa Shamensky, RSA.
Kelly Green, RSA.
James Campbell, RSA. Russ Theobald, Rails.
Is
That's
that
it.
everyone? Okay, wonderful.
Yes.
Well, it looks like there's a great turnout in East Peoria. I'm very sorry that I was not able to be there. It's one of my favorite sites to visit. So I hope you guys are all having a wonderful time. Do we have any public comments? And do we have any visitors on the phone? Okay, do we have any public comments at any of our sites? Hearing none, we'll move on to adoption of the agenda. I do want to make one change on it, which is the capital projects fund review. Paul, I know you have joined us on the phone, but I feel like this is a discussion better had in public or in person. It certainly is in public. And so I would ask that we table this discussion and move it to next month's meeting. So if no one has any objections, I would appreciate a motion to adopt the agenda as amended.
So moved.
Thanks, Dave. And a second?
Second.
All right, thanks. Was that Laura? I couldn't tell.
Yes.
Okay, thanks, Laura. Wonderful. Any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Moving on to the financial report. Jim, would you be so kind?
Delighted to.
Wonderful.
In your packet is the financial report for the month of March. We're 3/4 of the way through the fiscal year now. Our highlight of the month was that we received another APC grant payment of $1,614,386. Our cash and investment coverage is at 15.2 months of operations, over a year. We've received over $3.5 million, or 35.94% of the fiscal year 2018 Aryan per capita grant. We're over budget for the year by about $100,000 because we received $3 million, almost $4 million related to last year's grant. So this year's with that is looking pretty good. So our general fund revenues were $284,000 above budget because the grant revenues are a little above budget. Plus the investment income has been very good with the increase in rates. We did invest over $4 million in certificates of deposits this year at 1.62%, and we did that about 3 months ago. And the money market yields are catching up to that. The Illinois funds is at 1.61, so, and rising. So we should be pretty good on investment income for the rest of the year, and probably into next year too. Through March, our general fund expenditures were almost $748,000 below budget. $413,000 of this is personnel expenditures, which generally stick and remain favorable every month because of some attrition and not filling some budgeted positions. We did fill one position, a replacement position in April, which was Dan Bostrom, who was here today. Other than that, and just a reminder, delivery and LSAP expenditures are over 50% of our budget and have been, and the actual is over that, 33.1% on delivery and 20.2% of LSAP support. Our capital projects fund expenditures will be below budget this year, partly because we spent some money last year on it, but the renovation project did come in about $80,000 under budget, and some other items, furniture will not be incurred this year. It was expended instead in some computer related expenditures. We found a cheaper way to do that. So those expenditures will be below budget. Can I answer any questions?
So hearing no questions, Jim, thank you as always for that fantastically thorough report. I always appreciate that. May I have a motion for approval of the March 2018 financial report?
So moved. Second.
Thanks, Scott. And thanks, Dave. Any discussion? All right, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Jim, surprise, surprise, you are up again. Would you like to take us through the bills and charges?
I certainly would. The next approval is for the expenditures for the month of March, which are listed at the back of the financial report. And the expenditures totaled $801,168.52 for the month, and the listing is included there. Are there any questions on any specific expenditures?
All right, hearing no questions, may I have a motion for approval of the check voucher register for March 2018 in the amount of $801,168.52?
So moved.
Great, and a
Second.
second? Thank you very much. Emily, would you please call roll?
Sure. Christine Barr,
Yes.
Dave Barry,
Yes.
Sue Busenbarg,
Yes.
Gwen Gregory,
Yes.
Kate Hall,
Yes.
Paul Mills, Scott Poynton,
Yes.
Dee Runnels,
Yes.
Nadia Sheikh,
Yes.
Michelle Simmons,
Yes.
Laura Turner.
Yes.
Great, and I am keeping track of the number of mistakes I'm making today, and I'm already up to 5. So I skipped right over the minutes. Apparently I thought that they were perfect, and so we didn't need to approve them. So we're going to just circle back to that. And we'll see if I can get up to 10 before the end of the meeting. Could I have a motion for approval of the minutes of the March 30, 2018 Rails Board meeting?
I would like to make a correction to the minutes first.
Sure.
It's my recollection that at the last meeting, you came in just after the roll call.
I
And
Did.
however, the minutes here refer to myself as adoption of the agenda. I believe that you were here for that, for the financial reports. It refers to me. It should be changed to Ms. Hall.
I couldn't remember when exactly I came in, Dave, so thank you. I thought it was right. But, so, thank you. Those are good changes. So then, could I have a motion to adopt the minutes as amended for the March 30th, 2018 Rails Board meeting?
So moved.
Thanks. And a second?
Second.
Thank you. I think Gwen had
Yeah.
it. It sounded like. Great. Any other discussion on the minutes? All right, hearing none then, all in favor, please say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And any abstentions? Great. So moving right along to reports, the only thing that I have to report is that I did send out the email to all of the board members asking you to please fill out the evaluation form for the executive director. If you somehow did not receive that, that went to all of your Rails email addresses. I'd be happy to resend it. Just let Emily know and she can forward it on to me and I will be happy to do that. But I do ask that every board member please fill that out and return it to me. This is our annual review of D and it's really important to get everyone's feedback. And so I look forward to getting those. You can send it as an attachment to me at my Rails board email address. I'll be compiling those and then we will be reviewing the summary of everyone's comments at the future meeting. So if you need it, tell Emily, please fill it out and get it back to me. I greatly appreciate it. And so let's move right along to committee reports. Paul, anything for Consortia Committee? Isn't he on the phone? Did I totally mess that up?
I don't think.
Oh, gosh. Okay. Then that is why he is not answering. Jane, if I'm not mistaken, Jane, would you like to provide the update from the last Consortia Committee meeting?
Sure. The Consortia Committee met on Monday. It was a little smaller attendance than usual due to a lot of other activities going on, including the Innovative User Group meeting, but we had a good discussion. Focus was on a review of the fiscal 20 LSAP support application. So.
Great. Thank you very much, Jane. We'll look forward to seeing that when the time is right. Does anyone have any questions for Jane on the consortia committee? All right, hearing none, we'll move along to executive committee, which we did not. Oh, I'm like, what was that? It was just the microphone falling. Laura, anything for the policy committee?
No, the policy committee hasn't met.
Okay, great. And Dee, anything from Sharm on the resource sharing committee?
No, that committee did not meet.
Great. And then would you like to provide the nominating committee report?
Yes, thank you. The nominating committee did meet, I think, last week, and the nominating committee consists of Kathy Parker, John Sayers, Pam Leffler, and Brian Shepard, and they met to approve the ballot. We have a big election. We have 3 public library trustee seats are open and 2 at-large seats are open. We have 3 trustees running for the 3 trustee at-large seats, and we have 11 candidates running for the 2 at-large seats. So that's going to be a big change, and we have a lot of changes coming up. So the election will start on April 30th. Next Monday, and run, I believe, through May 18th. I should add, I think at this point that Laura Keyes has resigned from the board. I'm not sure if we sent that word out to the entire board. It just happened a couple of days ago. So we are, while we, officially had 2 at-large seats open, we are going to be adding her seat, which she was filling a seat of someone else. I don't even remember the genealogy on that all anymore, but basically it's a 1-year term, so we will add that to the election. So that means we have 3 at-large, one of which is the completion of a term which is up next year. So that's it.
Great. Thank you very much, Dee. Does anyone have any questions for Dee about the nominating committee? All right. I would just remind everyone to vote early, but not often. Just do it once. But do try to remember to do it the one time. So, Dee, would you like to provide us with your monthly report?
I would be happy to. So you have my written report, and we have, I think, wound up the data gathering for our strategic plan. I think the needs assessment survey that we had sent out is done, and we'll now begin analyzing that. I told you about the election. Really happy to tell you that Veranda won that big, important ASCLA award. Yay, Veranda! There in Berlin. So I'm trying to think. You're going to be hearing a presentation from BiblioBoards later on, so that is. That's going to be very interesting. I really appreciate Mitchell and Rachel coming in to appear personally. And I don't think I have anything else to say. I'm going to talk about the debate I went to a little bit more under board development. Happy to answer any questions.
All right. Any questions for Dee? All right, Dee, thank you very much.
You are welcome.
And so now we have our state library report. Greg, would you like to take it away?
Sure. Good afternoon and welcome from everyone here at the State Library and Secretary White this afternoon. I'll try to be very brief. We had a number of recent announcements regarding grants, which some of your members certainly were participating in. The public library construction grants were just announced from Live and Learn, and we awarded 15 grants, nearly $700,000 in this latest round of requests. Press information regarding that is going out imminently, but each of the public libraries has been notified. We spoke to you some time ago about what was a quick turnaround grant program that we initiated. We awarded over 300 and nearly 1.2 million book grants recently. That actually was almost twice what we anticipated as far as interest, but the stories we received were quite compelling. It was about 50-50 public libraries, school libraries participating, kind of about the same percentage mix from Rails to Heartland libraries as well. But the very limited resources that had been available to these organizations, in fact, no resources in the case of a number of schools to add to their collection. So we're very, very pleased about that. Happy we could do it. That was federal funding that we utilized for that, but and those people will be paid quite soon. We also did do the announcements. Press information is out regarding the FY18 Public Library Per Capita and Equalization Grants. We were very, very pleased that after all the applications were in, indeed everyone was funded at the statutory maximum, which was great news for all the participants. There's been a lot of press coverage of that downstate. It seems to be good news for some communities. I haven't seen it. I mean, the press just went out, so I'm very aware of what's going on here. So it's been good news for libraries, and they're getting some recognition in the press as well. I think as important to those of you in public libraries right now is finally the last of the FY17 payments for public library per capita, and indeed some of the construction grants as well from the Live and Learn Fund have been issued. That's great news because it was a bit confusing what was going on with many of the organizations. Indeed, we were getting a number of calls, and why did some have it, why did some not? Simply it was a matter of how much money was in the fund. So we're pleased that is resolved. If someone, and I made this announcement last night at Heartland too, if someone gives you notice they didn't get what they thought they were to get or a check at all, have them contact us immediately because there's an error somewhere. So we do believe that is all paid. We are looking, of course, at what's going on for FY19, looking towards the future, and it's not so far off. Right now, the Secretary's budget request does hold system funding at what we allocated for FY18. Of course, we hope that that stays in place throughout the legislative process and approval by the governor. It's certainly too early to tell, but that is indeed what we indicated to the library systems, that they should complete their FY19 requests for funding to our office and base it upon those amounts. In the near future, I would say the library systems will be hearing more from us on how we will be trying to work more closely with some public library district and trustee issues. there's an issue regarding reporting compliance and trustee vacancies and filling those. And we need to address that a bit better, I believe. As we met with Dee and several of the staff from Rails yesterday, either here in person or on VTEL, we both agreed there's some issues, trustee issues, and it's across the state that we need to be addressing. And we'll be also working a little more closely with the Illinois Library System, or the Illinois Library Association, excuse me, on what they're doing for trustee education at the annual conference. We've had some discussions with them, and we would like to give them support because we feel that this is an area that we probably do need to become much more active in once again. So, questions? Oh, Elevate is here tomorrow, yes. They were just testing the sound as we walked across a while ago. So we will have several people from here attending that. I know you all will too. So it will be an exciting day again tomorrow here at the State Library. And Monday, yeah, I didn't announce this today. We have quite a day Monday. Secretary White, of course, will be in attendance. It's a number of his award ceremonies. This is more internal, but Employee of the Year for the whole Secretary of State's agency, of which the State Library does have someone nominated for that, and we're hopeful for that individual. But Monday is the Spotlight on Achievement Awards ceremony for those who, well, students within the literacy programs. 10 students will be recognized for their commitment to the program, completion, how it's truly changed their lives. We also recognize 10 tutors who volunteer their time and support that program statewide. We have 20 individuals that will be recognized in total. From all areas of the state will be here. We're expecting about a crowd of about 100 for that. And then we move immediately into something that's not as, the ceremony itself is a bit more private, I would say, but it's the letters about literature recognition. And I say it's private because some of the personal information that is contained in those letters, it's really quite touching. That's the program that we do at the Library of Congress. Once again, Illinois was the largest participant. We had over 6,900 letters submitted.
That's fantastic.
For students, generally through their school. The school is also recognized. We'll have 3 winners in the various age groups. There's a little over 30,000 submissions nationwide. So Illinois has by far the largest participation level of any state in the country. Of course, we'll submit those winners on to the Library of Congress for possible recognition in the national award. Interestingly enough, and one of your members, I believe Porta School District is a member of Rails, is that correct? In Petersburg, Illinois? Anyway, they're the third.
So.
Porta's part? Yeah. Well, that gets to our discussion yesterday, Dee, where I don't know if it's Anyway, it's their third
all right.
year of one of these awards out of 7,000 letters. So that's quite an achievement for a school district. So I apologize. So a big day, a lot of great recognition for activities that we're involved in.
And I'm very much looking forward to the Directors University, which the State Library is so generously hosting at the beginning of June, which is a little bit further off, but you guys definitely keep busy. So, well, thank you very much for your report. Does anyone have any questions for Greg?
Kate, I have a question, Kate. and Greg.
Sure.
It's a question and an advertisement, or a comment, I guess, regarding trustee training. I wonder if, Joe, if you wouldn't mind coming up and just saying a couple words. We have a couple of CE events planned for trustees in the very near future.
Yes.
I believe, is it next Saturday?
Yes, so next Saturday, Princeton Public Library, so Saturday morning, 9:30 to 12:30.
Joe, oh.
And, I'm sorry.
No, it was, the camera didn't, so we were only seeing, like, not your face.
That's what I was going for, but okay. And then 2 weeks after that at the Freeport Public Library. In both cases, we've only got a handful. Obviously, we want more. I mean, we hear that this is such a need, and I'm a trustee too, so I get it. You're talking about volunteers, people, jobs. I mean, it's difficult, but it'll be Nancy Sylvester, who's done programs for ILA. She's very good. I know it's not in everyone's backyard, but if you're at all in that area and have trustees or directors that you can encourage to attend, we would love to have a bigger group there. Okay.
So that's the advertisement part, and I guess I would just say that obviously this is a high priority for us as well. I think doing more with ILA and at the ILA conference is great because a lot of trustees come to the conference, but I think that we have to find ways to do training during regular board meetings, or somehow not expecting them to come to yet another meeting if we really want to get to lots and lots and lots of trustees, because that's just the nature of the way things are. So we're telling all of you guys, and we're saying it out loud on the Polycom, come to those sessions, but we got to find another way to do, or additional ways to do it, I would say too. So.
Yeah, absolutely, and that's why I said the systems would be hearing from us. We're recognizing this more and more.
Right.
So it's going to have to be a concerted effort. And certainly we looked to ILA first because we knew there would be something planned right away for the conference. So we'll see what we can all work together on.
Awesome.
That's great. All right, does anyone have any additional questions or comments for Greg in the State Library? All right, well, thank you so much. We're going to head over to Burr Ridge now, figuratively speaking. Next up is our Biblio Board presentation, and I will just say that Mitchell Davis, who's the CEO at Bibliolabs, who's going to be giving us this presentation. We had the great good fortune to have him come to Northbrook earlier this week and had a fantastic session talking about BiblioBoard and the products, and my staff are full of ideas and wanting to do different things and are talking about how we can do that. So we are very excited, and I feel like I'm just learning what BiblioBoard has to offer, and I'm excited to hear what Mitchell is going to share with us today. And so I'm going to turn it over to Veranda if she wants to do a more formal introduction.
Who could top that fabulousness? So I'm going to say, thank you, Kate. So I just want to say Rails has, in part with our e-content strategy, to experiment, which y'all have seen in a previous board meeting, to experiment, to expand content for Illinois residents and all types of content. Started working with BiblioBoard and not only engaged with them as a vendor, but had the opportunity to pilot several projects like Pop-Up Picks, the first to do that in the country, and have really had the good fortune to work with them as a development partner. As I'd like to say just really quickly is that the key thing that's important about this relationship and working with their very small team is that it's a tech company that works with libraries as opposed to a library company that's got into tech. So we just had a meeting, in part thanks to Gwen, with UIC to talk about how we could share more open educational resources through the platform and support that library's role in engaging people in OERs, which is something their provost is looking at. We met with the Chicago Children's Museum this week to further engage them, and how could, as we called it, library to museum trainings and partnerships. So their goal being to extend the museum experience and learnings past that physical visit to back home and in libraries around the state. And our goal being to engage in helping parents with learning, which is a shared goal of ours. So anyway, and we had a great training with members, BiblioBoard Bingo this week as well. And I'm happy to send anyone a bingo card. Kate, you have one already.
It's awesome. It's awesome.
Thank you. Rachel and I developed that, along with Nikki Zimmerman. So I'll turn it over, and you have the PowerPoint. We're not doing a PowerPoint on screen. The PowerPoint that Mitch will be working from and Rachel will be working from is included as a handout in your documents. So thanks you guys for coming. You've really done great with engaging with our members. Rachel has already, based on the feedback from yesterday's meeting, submitted help desk tickets for the great feedback that members gave in yesterday's BiblioBoard Bingo. So I appreciate that.
Awesome. Well, no, I so appreciate being given this opportunity. And as Veranda said, we included a PDF in the packet, so I don't necessarily need to go through that in a sort of PowerPoint way, but I hope everybody gets a chance to look at that and learn a little bit more about who we are and how this relationship has developed. I can tell you personally, I think one of the things Rhonda said that I would reiterate is that we are a software company first, and we don't really think about what we do as products. We realize that software is never finished and is like life, an iterative process, and so the way we have built the company's DNA is just to constantly be in a flow to release and enhance and make software better based on feedback. And you guys have been an exemplary
Hey, Mitchell.
partner. Yes.
I'm so sorry. I just wanted to pause you for 1 second and make an announcement to the rest of the sites. I think that someone might be typing near one of the microphones. So if someone was just typing, if I could ask that you move the microphone or not. I don't know who it was, but that would be great because I want to soak in everything that Mitchell is saying.
Thank you. Yeah, so I'll slightly start over. Hopefully the PDF, I think rather than just going through this like a PowerPoint, the PDF that we included in the board packet, I hope everyone will have a chance to look at that. It does give a little bit of background on who we are and sort of where we came from and how this relationship has developed over the past 3 years. And I was saying that one of the things Rhonda said that I would reiterate is that we really are a software company first and have just decided to apply our time and talents to the library industry rather than being a library company getting into software. And so we've just, the way the company operates, the DNA of the company is a flow, and we're under no illusion that software is ever finished. And so we release software and we iterate based on feedback, and that's a real-time process. And you just end up with completely different kinds of experiences when you build software that way. So that's how we think, and you guys have been an exemplary partner in terms of breaking down the boundaries that sort of keep libraries and traditional vendors from building really innovative experiences. I even think in our agreement, you guys have a first right of refusal on any new innovative programs we come up with. We actually come to you guys first and say, hey, we've had this idea around a particular program, what do you think? And a lot has come out of that. Veranda mentioned pop-up picks. And I think, you know, for the first year of the pilot, we were really figuring out how we were going to work together. And I think in the second year of the pilot, if you look at some of the traffic statistics that we included in the presentation deck, obviously those are headed in the right direction. but I think it was really only late last year, when we all got together in November, that we realized one of the strengths of the BiblioBoard platform is that it's very rich and deep and wide and can do a bunch of different things. I saw a comment in a Rails strategic document about the future of libraries being multi-type, and I think our platform really resonates that. So because it can do so many things, it can be confusing as to how you start or where you start. And I think in late November, we really settled on a strategy that we're now in the process of executing, where we're really building a BiblioBoard experience for the different audiences throughout the states, or throughout the state. So, for example, I would say there's 3 areas today that we are focusing on in 2018 as we try to build more engagement and traffic. The first one is Pop-Up Picks, which is a community reading platform, meaning these are traditionally published ebooks from top publishers. We've actually even got some stuff from St. Martin's Press, our first Big 5 publisher, in Pop-Up Picks in this most recent release. And these are publishers who are giving ebooks away for free through libraries in an unlimited use, DRM-free model, in an effort to try to help libraries reach more people with their digital experience and bring those people back to the library and drive more library cards. And so that's a really interesting experiment. The Chicago Children's Museum is a major partner there. Publishers Weekly is a partner there. And we're really excited about that. And that's just a mainstream outreach ebook strategy. The second piece is the self-publishing and independent author piece. I actually was very, very fortunate yesterday to be over at Fountaindale for the Soon to Be Famous award, which was given out yesterday. And I think the thing that struck me yesterday, having been at the reception for the first time, is how proud the nominating libraries are when that author is selected, just as much as the author is proud and happy. And so it really was a day where we got to see how important libraries can be in helping independent authors get recognized and push their careers forward. So that's Soon to Be Famous. We've been partners on that. This is the 3rd year in a row. And so that's a second audience, which is this independent author and this community engagement piece of libraries being good at working with their own local creators. And then the third piece, which I talked about in the deck, is the school support. Our platform is geolocated for the whole state, and all of the content is DRM free, meaning that any school that is within Illinois has full and complete access to every bit of content that's on BiblioBoard. And so we've been able to build really powerful partnerships between public libraries and consortia and schools, and we're going to be rolling out a version of BiblioBoard specifically for schools this summer and doing some summer camp training with librarians to do K-12 curations. And so just a lot of really exciting things happening on that front also. So those are the 3 areas where we're executing with you guys today. And then as Veranda mentioned, we're separately doing a lot of really innovative work in open education and open access. And so we were able to meet at UIC this morning and get some updates on how they're approaching OER. And I think we found some ways to fit in with the platform that you guys are already funding for them. So I really appreciate how innovative this consortia has been. Dee's leadership on the self-publishing side is really amazing. We've taken the Illinois Author Project, which you guys fund and back here, and we actually just expanded that to 7 more states based on the model that you guys started here in Illinois. So we're taking some of this innovation and this development we're doing with you guys, and we are taking it out to the world, and of course giving you guys the credit for being the innovation partner on that. So I think we just wanted to have a few minutes to give you guys a sense of momentum and a sense of vision for where we're headed, and I really appreciate having some time to talk to you guys here today.
Thank you for resource sharing our ideas with other states.
It's been inspiring. I mean, it's a really inspiring relationship.
Does anyone have any thank you. Did you want to say anything?
Oh, no, I'm good.
Okay. Does anyone have any questions or anything for Mitchell and Rachel or me?
No questions? I don't hear crickets chirping, but I feel like we're close to that. I'm very excited. We do have the product at Northbrook, but I have to admit, so one of the big takeaways that I learned how to call things correctly. So BiblioBoard allows us to provide the content to people, but then there are essentially Selfie, Pressbooks, and Creator, which allows people to create records, to create digital content in all different formats. Like, we're excited about the music angle for this, which can then be hosted on BiblioBoard. So I better understand all of the pieces now, which is good.
That's great.
But I think that it isn't just about providing access, it's also giving people the ability to create them and put them into the library catalog so that patrons can find them, and to do it in a very simple, straightforward way that won't be a ton of work for the patrons or for the libraries, but that will connect people with more local resources. We were talking about our Northbrook Voices, which is our oral history project that we've been partnering with the Historical Society in Northbrook on for a decade, and getting those out into a larger audience is something that we've been talking about. And this, I feel like, is one of the, Bibliolabs is providing us with products that we can use to connect those with people around the country, around the globe. And so we're very excited about this.
Thank you.
So
just really quickly, what was it, the thing you said, that these opportunities from another library, not only can people come to the library and get things, but now they can contribute to work to their library as well, to really make it a living organism of a local resource.
Yeah, I think what we've tried to focus on user experience, and on also focusing on things that libraries can really excel at in the digital age, and connecting with local creators and being a local archive for all of your local creators, whether that's writers or musicians or photographers or artists, is a really powerful role that the library can play. And I think from a business standpoint, since this is a board meeting, I think another important thing to understand is that this is a platform, and so it's not a program that costs more money as it succeeds. It's a platform, it's a fixed fee, you're paying for the relationship and for the cooperation and the development. So as more things get used and as more engagement happens, that doesn't cost more money. And so I think that's a pretty critical part of succeeding, is knowing that it's not going to eventually lead to a higher bill or to longer wait lines or to all these other sort of effects that happen as a result of success. And so we just wanted to create something that was smooth sailing. But I think one of the things from the Chicago Children's Museum, that was an amazing meeting. And I told Veranda this morning that I ended up slacking back to our developers that the most amazing thing about the meeting was it was an hour and a half, and we didn't talk about technology once. There was not one conversation about how is this going to work and do we need an IT guy in the room. It just works. So what do we put on it, and how do we deploy it in a way that gets as much engagement as possible? And that, I think, is the real power of making great software, just an invisible thing that works, and allowing librarians to do what they're great at and curate and promote and share. So we're so excited to be working with you guys, and so excited you let us come here and talk about it. So thanks.
Yeah. Well, thank you very much, Mitchell. Does anyone have any other comments or questions? All right, well, we appreciate it and look forward to seeing what wonderful things you guys bring forward in the future. I know it's going to be fantastic.
Thanks. And I'm going to drive to Springfield now for Elevate and get these guys off for their flight.
Thank you, guys.
Okay. All right, safe travels.
Thank
See
you.
you soon.
All right, so next up we have a certification report, and Amanda is going to provide us with an update. She's in East Peoria, I think?
Yes, she's coming.
Okay.
All right, thank you to all Rails members for your participation in the Illinois State Library annual certification process. This is the first year in the history of certification that we've had 100% member response, and we greatly appreciate that. And,
Yay.
yay.
Fabulous.
And because of that, we have no libraries to be recommended for suspension.
That is also great.
So thank you, everyone. All right.
Thank you, Amanda. And thank you, certification team.
Yes, yes.
Great work.
Great
Yes,
job.
yes. Are there any questions
Yes.
about certification? All right.
No questions, but just thank you to everyone at Rails. I know you guys work incredibly hard at this. And obviously your hard work, which you've been, for the last several years has paid off. That's brilliant.
Yes.
So, but don't go away, because we also have, I believe, a new member that we are recommending, hopefully going to be recommending today. So would you like to provide us with some information?
Sure. On April 10th, I visited the DuSable Museum of African American History and determined this library meets Rails membership requirements. I recommend the Rails board votes to recommend membership of this library to the Illinois State Library. The librarian at this library, she's been aware of Rails and the services for quite a while, and with a recent endowment, they were able to create a brand new dedicated space for their very expensive collection, which is a lot of archival materials. This space is heat controlled, light controlled, they have UV blinds, it's a great space as well as a reading room. And so this creation of the space helped them to meet Rails membership requirements. So after they are hopefully approved, the librarian's looking forward to taking advantage of Rails networking events and opportunities to collaborate. Okay, are there any questions?
All right, hearing no questions for Amanda, may I have a motion to approve the recommendation as presented and request final approval from the Illinois State Library?
So moved.
I'll make the motion
Second.
for Nadia.
Oh, okay, we're gonna give it to Nadia, and then I couldn't tell. Was it Scott who spoke?
You can take Scott.
Dave?
Okay, I'll second it, sure.
Okay. Okay, we'll give it to Dave for the second. Is there any discussion
No.
on the recommendation? All right, hearing none, then all those in favor, please say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, great. Thank you so much, Amanda. So we are skipping over capital projects and moving right on to the area and per capita grant application. So Dee, I believe you would like to provide us with some additional information.
Yes, thank you, Kate.
Sure.
So, yes, in your packet, you have the sort of major information piece of the whole area and per capita grant application that we fill out every year. This is a narrative draft at this point for you to look at that outlines our plan for the next fiscal year in terms of how we will provide service and what services we will provide. We're working on the budget also, and you will see the budget and the narrative that supports and explains the budget, as well as the final draft of this narrative draft at the May meeting, which is when you will be asked to approve the whole thing because it has to go to the State Library on June 1st. So basically, this is our operational plan for the next year. And obviously, a lot of the things that we do, we will keep doing, like delivery and LSAP support and BiblioBoard and eRead and lots of things like that, CE, etc. But I think, it's really important that you that we discuss this information, so I'm just going to go through and give you some of the high points. And there is a memo in your packet as well that identifies some of the high points. For example, on page 2, we talk about the standards, and we will talk about that more later in the agenda. There's an agenda item for that, but for the purposes here, we're talking about implementing them or making them effective at some point soon, and spending a year doing data collection. This is not a big ticket item. In terms of the budget, we have put $25,000 in the budget in the past for CE related expenses, training related expenses for the standards. On page 4, there is, you'll see the expansion of the scope. Whoops, that's page 3. I'm not going to find it there. We provide multi-type collaborative grants, and we're expanding the scope of these grants so that member libraries can do cooperative projects, not just with other libraries, because sometimes it's a historical society, sometimes there's other entities that would make a really good relationship. So we don't want to limit that. On page 7, we talk about some possible facilities changes. I think you know that we've been doing a big study with the Library for Applied Spatial Analysis down at SIU Edwardsville. They are looking at the placement of our delivery hubs. We also have some pressure from the owners of some of the buildings. For example, this building, the owner of this building would really like to get their hands on our delivery hub here. So we're going to have to look at our facilities in terms of whether they can still meet the needs of our delivery system. So we'll be working on that in 19. I don't expect that there will be actual changes, but there might be. Board orientation, we're working on that. That was a request from that's on page 8 from the board members, that we do a better job of orienting you. Then, of course, we're looking to get our Explore More museum and cultural attractions program implemented. Again, not a big ticket item, but I think it will have a big impact on our libraries. In FY18, we did put a moratorium on grants for libraries to join LSAPs and for LSAPs to merge, but we are going to be recommending that we reinstitute them in FY19, and there is a lot of demand for them. There's a lot going on in the consortia LSAP world. This is a big ticket item. We're looking, we think, at over $400,000 next year. But this is very good news, and it's I think a very unusual year. It would not be so much demand in the following year, but obviously that's very important. It's a very core service. So those are, I think, the high points. I'd be happy to talk about anything else that you would like to discuss in here. And obviously we'll be continuing to work on it over the next month, and happy for feedback during that time. And then we'll bring it to you with the budget that goes with all these plans, that supports these plans, and then it goes to the state library for their approval. So, any questions? Anywhere?
Anyone on the phone? We have a number of phone people. All right, well, thank you very much, Dee. As always, there appears to be quite a bit that you guys are going to try to accomplish in the year. But we'll look forward to seeing the more final report next month. And I encourage you, if you do have thoughts or ideas, to please share them with Dee. before the next board meeting so that they can be incorporated for our next review. So next up, we have disposal of surplus inventory and the auction. Jane is going to provide us with a summary of this. We did receive information in our packet as well.
Thank you, Kay. Yes, in your packet, you do have a list of items that we've identified as surplus inventory. What we do in these cases is not only check around with the staff in the specific service center, but check with all of our staff at all service centers to see if it would be of use. So we have no need for the items listed here, but we have found in the past that libraries have found them useful and gotten some very good prices. So we are asking for your approval to dispose of these, after which our practice is to give the state library first crack at them. And assuming they don't want any of them, everything would be listed in our online auction, which would start May 25th and run for a couple weeks with pickup in mid-June.
All right, any questions for Jane? Hearing no questions, may I have a motion to approve disposal of the surplus inventory?
So moved.
Thanks, Sue. And a second?
Second.
Thanks, Laura. Any discussion on this? Okay, because... Oh, sorry, go for it.
Well, I just wondered, are there plans in place, what you're going to do with the stuff that's not sold? Is there a disposal area around that you can?
It depends on what it is, but yeah, we try not to throw things out. You know, things that don't sell can be donated somewhere.
Okay.
Thanks, Sue. Any other questions or comments? Okay, Emily, because we're approving sale, can you do a roll call?
Sure.
Thanks.
Christine Barr.
Yes.
Dave Barry.
Yes.
Sue Busenbark. Yes. Gwen Gregory.
Yes.
Kate Hall.
Yes.
Scott Poynton.
Yes.
Dee Runnels.
Yes.
Nadia Sheikh.
Yes.
Michelle Simmons.
Yes.
Laura Turner.
Yes.
Okay, thank you, everyone. We are in the home stretch, everyone. We're on to unfinished business. So Dee is going to provide us with a system membership standards update.
Yes, everyone's favorite topic, especially mine, the standards. Yay!
It's my favorite topic.
So, okay, so last June, the board approved a version of the standards for testing. And in your packet, you have a memo that I wrote for today. Then you have the entire packet from last June. And then you have the latest version, which is both redlined with deletions and yellowed with highlights, with additions. So, just to tell you where we are at now, we did do the test, and we had about 70 libraries, I think, from across Illinois, of all types, Heartland libraries, as well as Rails libraries. The test was very informative. We asked there are three standards. I think there's three. There's a standard about professional leadership and the MLS degree, or not the MLS degree. There's a standard about collection expenditures as a percentage of the budget. Standard about hours open, more than 15 hours a week based on your population size for public libraries. And those three standards, we did not test in the same way. We asked some supplementary questions to try to get at some additional information. But those three standards have been a point of a lot of discussion because they are, in some cases, difficult for libraries to reach, and so we have to have a plan for what to do. So for the collection expenditure, what we did was we asked for information about expenses associated with collections that are not included in the Illinois Public Library Annual Report, such as expenditures on ebook consortia like eRead or like the Overdrive consortia, expenditures on an ILS or an LSAP that you're part of, which certainly provide access to resources, expenditures on OCLC or resource sharing utilities like LinkedIn. And we found that when we added those expenses to the pure, so to speak, collection expenditure, every library that in Heartland that participated and every library but one in Rails met the collection expenditure. And the library that didn't meet it in Rails knew that they weren't going to meet it, and the person is actually on the System Membership Standards Committee, and this is an issue in their community. So anyway, so that was very informative and we think takes a lot of the problem away from that standard. We're also proposing to grandfather or mother or say that anybody who is a library director on the date that these are ultimately, they go into effect, is in compliance. So that will completely remove that issue. And then going forward, obviously the training comes into play in a big way, because what we're saying is that in the standards is that if you don't have an MLS, you need to go to system provided training when you become a director, for example, like the Directors University for public libraries or other training that Rails would provide and actually does provide already in a lot of cases. And then the hours open, that we need more information on. There's not that many libraries that have an issue with that we know, that we are aware of, and of course ultimately there is a waiver process as well. We've made, we've really I think made these standards pretty meetable. I know that's not a word, but you know what I mean. And but we know that we need we need data from every library in Rails, and the test obviously could not provide that. So what we are proposing that we will do is do a year of data collection only, and not have the standards be effective in the sense of libraries being penalized or whatever, that there would be no effect on system membership for the first year, whenever that year starts. So this is just for discussion today. We're still working on some revisions to definitions. For example, we have to define the word digital. You'll see we took out some of the vague standards, made things more understandable, gave examples, etc. So I'm happy to answer questions. I think Scott has a question. Oh, and Dave has a question. Yes.
Yes, under professional leadership and training.
Yes.
Items number 3 and 4.
Yeah.
First-time library administrator starts in 3. And item 4 starts experienced directors.
Okay, excuse me. All right, this may be an editing error because
I would say use the same word.
Okay.
For both, or even if you use administrator / director.
I got you. Yep. Thank you.
Both. So there's no.
Yep.
And
thank you very much.
Thank you.
Good catch, Dave.
I'm sure that's the only situation like that in the entire document, right, Emily?
Well, you did a great job explaining the collections, the 16%.
Okay, good.
Like
Good.
Do Deirdre, I just wanted to ask that, taking a year, I don't have a problem with it, but taking a year to collect data, is the intent of that so all of the libraries can see where they fall in this, and if they can make changes before it's, reality, that they can do so? Is that the thinking behind that?
That certainly is one of the reasons, but I think, we think we know what we need to know, but we haven't really updated our data either in a couple of years, since the committee was actively working. So to be totally fair and whatever the right word, I don't know, fair isn't really the right word, but to really make it possible for libraries to understand where they are, as you're saying, a year of just that. And I think, it's going to take a while for us to figure out how to do the data collection too. We're not going to require libraries to respond to anything except core. So it'll be very much shorter than what you're seeing here. We'll make it possible. That's we, the royal we, it's really IT. For libraries to test themselves for, accomplished and exemplary, because, frankly, one of the concerns that comes up regularly but isn't necessarily thought of as often, perhaps, as it should be is, it's like a comment that I got the other day from a library director who was, really glad to see that we're going to have collection expenditures and hours open in these standards, but he was appalled that we're lowering he sees it as lowering the 12% for collection as is in the ILA document to 8%, because he uses that to be sure that his board understands how important it is to spend a certain amount on collections. So I'm sure that there are a lot of directors who feel as he do, but there are also directors who feel the opposite. So we're, as I said to him, trying to be realistic and aspirational at the same time is a very tricky thing to do. So we did talk with the State Library about these yesterday. We're going to talk more. Obviously we want to, we think that these are going to be beneficial to all libraries, not just Rails libraries. The goal from the beginning has been to have them be statewide. And as I said at the member update last month or a few weeks ago, these are not onerous. These are not designed to penalize anyone. And it's not like we're going out on some limb here. All of our neighboring states have standards. Many states have standards that are much more rigorous than these. We're just trying to, put something into place that will help with some of the problems with like school librarians not being kept, and training, trustees not being required to go to training, those kinds of things that we hope this might help.
Dee, I have a follow-up kind of question/comment from Scott, and then I have another question. So I think you said something when Scott was asking about, kind of data collection for the first year. You said required to fill out the core piece. And I think that for me is the critical piece. We're not saying, hey, we're going to just collect more data. We're saying, no, there's not going to be any ramifications if you don't meet it. Right. But we do require that you provide us with the information so that we can get a full set of data to really look at this. And I think that's an important distinction. That I think you made, but I just wanted to kind of further punch.
Yes, thank you. That's true. That's correct.
And then I'm curious, and maybe, I don't know if this is a question more for you or for Greg and Deb, but because I know we were waiting to hear back from the State Library on the system membership standards. So I'd love to hear from either you or the State Library kind of a little bit more about what that discussion was like and kind of what the State Library's take on this is. Because as you said, our goal is to have this be a statewide thing, and that requires, obviously, Heartland and the State Library to weigh in on this. So I don't know if that's more you or Greg.
I would defer to Greg at this point.
Sure.
If that's all right with Greg?
Sure.
We registered concerns and some reservations about this. At the inception, and when I was coming to your board meetings initially on this topic, I think we still have some reservations. This is an area that has to, if it's possible to move forward, it has to be with great caution. I think that, the results of the data collection that occurred, I've read the summaries that have been available, and we probably would like to see even maybe some further detail from that. I mean, I've done some more reading even since our meeting yesterday on this topic. And we agreed that we would get back with D. We also indicated yesterday to the D and the staff that if anything that would go forward would really, our read on this has to end up in administrative rule as well.
So, Greg, I want to just kind of ask a couple clarifying questions on what you said. So, you said if this can move forward, and I'm confused as to what you mean by that, because I feel like this is something we've been working on now for a number of years, and I know that we as a board feel like this can certainly move forward. I know certainly putting it in administrative code would be the best option, but I know that that takes a while to do something like that, and I feel like this is more from a board policy standpoint. So I guess I'm curious to have a little more clarification on what you mean by that.
Well, the point of this initial survey was to see the implications, because we had done some initial research on the standards as they were drafted before and had some reservations in the percentages we were coming up with possible non-compliance. Anyone's capacity to deal with that, whether it's the library system, the local library, or even us on a waiver process, no waiver process, etc. The standard has never changed or the administrative rules and law that a policy, especially of this nature, would require the state's approval before final implementation by a library system. And even with the current standards on where system membership is defined now in administrative rule, which was changed in 2015, it does not indicate the ability, as the previous rendition did, for various systems to implement standards different from others. So we will get back with, certainly we agreed yesterday to get back with D on this, and we'll go from there.
That certainly sounds like something to ask an attorney about, because you're right. I certainly don't have the administrative code memorized. If anyone does, that is scary and impressive. Right? So can you speak a little bit more about what your reservations are? I certainly, I think it sounds like one of them is the ability to assure compliance with these, but are there other reservations that you have? Because I feel like we have adapted these in such a way that, and Rails would have a good system in place that should not be an issue. But do you have reservations specifically about the standards themselves, or is it really just about the compliance issue?
Well, I think it's about compliance, the ability of entities to comply with the standards that, as they're phrased. There were certainly always suggestions in the document that we agree with what is said. I think Heartland would feel the same way about that as far as a statewide standard. Still have, reservations on compliance, and even though guaranteed there's a waiver process, but as I had expressed before, it certainly is that, the current staff, certain board might grant the waiver, but will an ensuing board And ultimately, when you make a recommendation to remove a library, the law remains the same, that it's the state librarian has to agree with that action as well. So it's not, certainly not, and I know that we don't want to speak about this being an issue where libraries feel, I think, threatened in any way or penalized, but ultimately I think that a number of them have been concerned when they see this. That's what's been expressed to us, that they're fearful of it, that they're going to go out of service, so, or out of system membership.
I certainly think that Rails and the Rails board and the Rails staff and the Rails system membership standards committee all recognize that making this change is a scary thing because it's a new thing. And sure. that can be very scary for people. And I know when I was going through it, I was like, okay, like, are we making sure that we're meeting all of these? Let me make sure I understand this right. And even though I knew, you know, when we had sent the first sample out that I didn't have to comply with this, there is that, like, but I want to make sure that I'm doing the right thing for my library. So I certainly think that that is important, but I also feel like we have covered that. And so I guess what I want to make sure that I'm understanding what you're saying is that there are certainly some concerns held by member libraries, which we're not going to be able to allay until we put this in and show them that it's going to be okay and work on a system, but that really the reservations, it sounds like, largely come down to how to make a consistent and fair process for libraries that might seek waivers or that might not comply with everything. And that seems to be what the sticking point is from your perspective. Is that an accurate reflection of what you were conveying?
I think that's certainly a piece of it. And again, I think there's certainly, you know, some will go back and review some of the documentation. I guess from yesterday's meeting, I felt, you know, the expression or the proposal to do a year of data collection, try to get more library participation that can truly be analyzed. I think that that's very worthwhile to see where the Illinois library community truly does fit into this proposed document. The summaries, I guess, that I have, I mean, we have essentially just some summaries of that. We really don't see the data behind the libraries that participated. I guess we have some reservations and want to make sure we're all in agreement on this before we can make the recommendation that the state librarian would sign off on this in whole.
Madam
so
Chair?
Then
It's a big issue.
yes, please, Dave, yes, by all means.
Kate.
Yeah, I think this year of data collections is also a year of selling these standards to all our members across the state. That's not just Rails, but Heartland's too. And we're changing the way people have been doing business for how many years now? 50 years? It's kind of like
almost 60.
It's incumbent upon us to make the sale. That's what I'm trying to get. We can use it. We need this year in order to do it.
Yeah.
As far as
This is Dee Runnels. And
Yeah.
I'm an attorney, and years ago when I went to law school, I took the administrative procedure course. And I think what Greg is maybe more saying is, do we have to follow, if Illinois has an Administrative Procedure Act, is Rails an agency within the Act? And if it is, before we can promulgate these kinds of policies, do we have to follow the procedure for adapting them? And and that's a question that somebody, an attorney that works with the Illinois library system, is going to be able to answer right off the bat, I'm sure. But I really think it's like we're talking apples and oranges here. It's not saying that our, we put all this work in and we can't, now we can't do anything because there's this new issue. It's just that if we're going to do something, it may be that we have to, during this year, maybe we have to be publishing notices and giving opportunity for hearings and things like that. So I think it's a question that needs to be asked of an attorney.
Yeah, and I know that we have asked the attorney in the past, but I think doing a follow-up is a great idea, and it sounds like that was something that Greg and Dee had already talked about, and I think that's an excellent point, Dee. And I think I want to just make sure that as we're going forward in collecting this data, that the state library is standing behind the standards and the core of what they are and helping us hopefully collect this data and putting your support behind having libraries even provide the data, because that is something that, as we have seen in the past with system with library certification, although not this year, which was awesome, but in the past it has been difficult to even get people to respond. And I think in order to really look at this, I think, Greg, in the way that you were talking about, we need to have all of that data. And so I hope we can count on the state library's support in helping us request that and even require that from the members, so that we can do a full-scale analysis.
And Dee expressed that yesterday, and yes, I think that we have to work how we would collect that with, or assure Rails, or assist, I should say, Rails in collecting that so that there's a better assessment of what this is and what the implications are. I'm hesitant in that year of implication, the great of data collection is to say that these are in force as of a certain date. I think that, the realization that this data still need to be collected and addressed is good. So let's let Dee and I work this out further.
All right, well, we look forward to hearing more updates. Does anyone else have any additional questions or comments about the standards for D?
Want public questions?
Sure, we have questions here.
Yep, great, fantastic.
That idea that the core standards would only be required to be reported on, was that just for the first year?
No.
Or is that for ensuing years too?
That would be for as long as forever, I guess.
And my second question then is the
Can you hear the question, Kate?
We can.
Okay, good. Yep.
The change in grandfathering or grandmothering in current directors, if those directors would then change libraries, would they still be grandfathered in, or would that kick in the new requirement? I mean, that maybe needs to be clarified.
Right. That would need to be clarified as to whether it's the individual or the library or, yeah.
Yeah.
I feel like it would, my personal preference on that would be that it would be the library. But I think that this is a fair compromise. I actually this is something that I'm like, hey, we really should require this, just because of some of the craziness that I've seen as a library director. So anyway, that's my personal preference, but I will look forward to seeing whatever the Rails staff come up with.
Scott has
a question. Did you say you? Great.
I was gonna weigh in, play devil's advocate on the opposite of that. If a library currently has a director that doesn't have an MLS, grandfathering or grandmothering that person, it's about the person, not the position of that library. I wouldn't want a library to think, at the point the standards went into effect, they didn't have an MLS director, so they never have to ever again.
Right.
It's about that one individual person.
Right.
And so if it has to travel with that person, if they go job to job, I'm more comfortable with that than the one library getting the free pass forever.
Right. No matter what, there's going to be another cascading effect.
Sure.
Okay, well, this was all a very good discussion. Thank you, and I'm sure we've gotten this far. We will get there. It's just one step at a time.
Thanks, Dee.
Thank you. Thank everyone.
All right, so then moving on to board development, Dee, you have a report on net neutrality for us.
Well, I went to a very interesting debate. I was very honored to be able to go to this. I think some of you know Mary Minow. She is a librarian, and she is on the IMLS board. She was the Follett lecturer, Follett chair at Dominican, the library school, and her family is unbelievable. Her father, Newton Minow, was the man who coined the phrase "the vast wasteland," and her parents are in their 90s. They live in Chicago. He went to Northwestern, local people. Mary's sister Martha was dean of the Harvard Law School, and her other sister Nell has some amazing thing that she does with Warren Buffett and his company. So anyway, it's like amazing people. So they have this debate series, and this one was on net neutrality, whether it's a good thing or a bad thing. And so there were two people on each side, and Keep Net Neutrality was Tom Wheeler, who was until recently the chair of the FCC, and Mitchell, what was her name? Not Mitchell Davis, he's Biblioboards. Mitchell Baker, who is the chairwoman of the Mozilla Foundation and Mozilla Corporation. And then against net neutrality was Nick Gillespie, who is an editor-at-large for Reason magazine, a libertarian magazine, and Michael Katz, who was an economics professor at UC Berkeley. So I said a little bit in my report about how for the people who were for net neutrality, they say that government has a role in protecting the public interest, essentially, and the people against it said that net neutrality it stifles innovation and that government shouldn't be involved in it because, of course, in the libertarian view, government is kind of essentially seen as with great skepticism, just put it that way. It was very interesting because they obviously four incredibly smart people, and they all made very good points about the public interest, but that government can be government changes too. You have the government we have now, and you have government that we had 50 years ago. They have different priorities. That the economics professor wanted to just let antitrust law solve everything, which I thought was interesting. But the way that the debate worked was also interesting. At the beginning, the people who were in attendance there or online, you had to vote and say which side you were on at the beginning, what you believed. And of course, most people, I would say, were for net neutrality, that all data is created equal, so to speak. And the way that they decided who was the winner was how many people changed their vote at the end, so that if you were undecided or if you just switched sides, so to speak. So the against net neutrality people won the debate, even though 65% of the audience believed in net neutrality. And I guess I should have started by saying that net neutrality, as I said in my report, is essentially the way that it's been working. There's very little prioritization of content. It just flows. But if those rules are removed, as the current administration has proposed, it would mean that ISP, internet service providers, can prioritize different content. For example, if some content they don't like, they could slow that down and make it harder for people to get to. If some content is being provided by a competitor of theirs, they could slow that down. You get the idea. So it was all very interesting, very esoteric in a sense, but affects us because we provide internet service and we rely, I mean, internet access, and we rely on being able to get, access to all data in an equal way as we do our jobs. So we'll see. Very interesting. So I thought you'd find it. Yeah, it was very interesting. So yeah, I'm happy to answer any questions. Comments? No.
I mean, very interesting.
Yes, it's a very complicated topic, but I was very glad to learn more.
Yeah. Well, thank you very much, Dee. So we will move on to Rails board member reports. And I'm going to selfishly just state two things really quickly before asking if anyone else has any news they would like to share. Our new makerspace, the Collaboratory, will be opening on May 7th. We're doing a soft opening, but we'll be having a grand opening this summer, which I will be sharing more information about and hope all of you can attend. But we're very excited about it, and the staff have been working diligently to get everything in place and ready to open our glass doors, which are currently covered over with brown paper, so that we can do a grand reveal on May 7th. And I'm also very much looking forward to being down in Washington, D.C. with Dee for the American Library Association's National Library Legislative Day, and get a chance to talk to some of our local legislators about things like, net neutrality. So we'll be going down, for example. But I'm very much looking forward to that, and that's taking place in another week. So does anyone else have any news that they would like to share? Scott
does.
Well, I just wanted to report that my library and the other 5 libraries within the Pinnacle Cooperative are all about to go live on a new patron rewards program called My Library Rewards. It's a service that we bought from a company that many libraries are familiar with that provides SendTech self-checkout machines. They're branching out into many other types of services, but this was just one of them. I believe we are the first libraries in Illinois to go live with this product, and I think certainly we're the first sort of metropolitan suburban area that they've worked with. But it's pretty fantastic. For years, we've all talked about how to engage local businesses to offer rewards to our library patrons by showing their library card or some such thing. And we've all had that thought in the back of our minds, and then we all just kind of put that in a drawer and save that idea for later, because it would be an immense amount of work to implement it and keep it up. And this is just kind of a turnkey thing where we negotiated a fee and they do all the work, and they're guaranteeing each of our libraries, I think it's 60 different local businesses that will participate.
Wow.
And that'll just grow. It'll grow over time, and they won't let you go live until they hit that number of businesses, because they really are protective of the notion that they don't want any one of those businesses to get overwhelmed and then pull out of the program. They want your patrons to kind of go out there and spend their points, equally amongst a lot of businesses. So it's pretty cool. The patrons, every time they check out an item, they earn 10 points. They're capped at 100 points per week. So they can earn 400 points per month just from checkouts. On top of those limits, if they attend library programs, they earn 20 points every time they attend a program. And those are not capped, so they can come to 100 programs a month if they want to. But it's pretty great. I can't wait for the public to dig into this.
It's very interesting to see.
Yeah, my library is going live on it next Tuesday. So
Scott, can you send some more information to Emily to disseminate to all of us? I would love to learn more about that. And I know I could just call you as well, but I feel like other people might be interested.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're hoping. We're hoping it works out as wonderfully as we think it will, and that then it'll spread in Illinois like it could and should. So.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Great. Well, we look forward to hearing how that goes. And it isn't just your patrons, or you have to be a patron at your library. Or can someone from, say, the North Side come and check out materials in Pinnacle and sign up for the rewards?
So the way it works is, the way it works the most seamlessly is if you have a smartphone, you can just go to however you get apps for your smartphone and search for My Library Rewards, download the app, and once you've downloaded it, then you go in there and, you create an account, and then there's a drop-down menu that says select the libraries that you use most often, and right, and you can select White Oak as your favorite library, and then any items that you check out at a White Oak library, then you earn the points for. So immediately I said to Mitch from the company, well, what would keep me from just selecting all the libraries? I want points wherever I go. And he said, there's nothing keeping you from doing that. But
go.
Yeah.
Okay, it's downloaded. I'll let you know.
All right.
This is very exciting. All right. So does anyone else have any other news that they would like to share?
I do. This is Gwen at the University of Illinois at Chicago. Thank you. Daily Library. This week we celebrated that we have received the papers of Mayor Richard M. Daley to add to our Richard J. Daley papers. So now we have both of them, and they had a opening where the Daley family came, and so we'll have all these materials as well as other political collections that we have, like from Emil Jones and other important Chicago area political figures. So we're building up those collections.
Gwen, do you have a rough count of how many documents that entails, or?
No, and we have other things too, like his book collections of books he got, and things like that. It's a lot of stuff.
Cool.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Wow, that is exciting.
Yeah.
You probably can't check those out, though, for rewards.
No. But I was thinking maybe we could have rewards, and how would that work?
That's pretty... But I think just getting to see those documents is probably reward enough. That has to be really interesting.
Right, and so there will be available for things like a history fair, when students, we have a history fair day, when all these history fair students come in and use all our materials to prepare for history fair.
And is that ever something that you guys would digitize?
Yes, but maybe not every single thing right away, but it is certainly something that we would digitize some of it. And I know some things, like we have some daily oral history materials that I think are being worked on, maybe being digitized, and Richard J. Daley photos. We have the photo collection from his photographer that we are working on digitizing and making available.
Very cool. I feel like people are doing such cool things. That's really interesting. Thank you for sharing that with us, Gwen. Does anyone else have any other really interesting things to share? I felt like I just set a high bar because Scott and Gwen both had such cool stuff. It could be just mildly interesting as well. No, I can understand. Okay, well, next month we'll be meeting on May 25th. Our main location will be at Burr Ridge at 10 a.m. because of the Labor Memorial. Which one is it? Memorial Day weekend. I always get the two confused. Memorial Day weekend. So, Dee, I'm presuming that we're probably going to look at the area and per capita grant?
Yes, we are.
Great, and probably another dive into some membership standard stuff?
Yep, definitely.
And then I know we'll also, hopefully I'll have received everyone's evaluations for Dee, and we'll be able to talk about that next month. And we will also find out who our new compatriots on the board will be, right? Yes?
That's correct. That is correct, yep.
Great. So does anyone have any other agenda items for the next meeting? Okay, well then, Hearing none, I thank you all very much for your attendance today, and I declare this meeting adjourned at 2:44 p.m., and I hope you all have a wonderful weekend.
Thank you. Bye.
Thanks. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye-bye.